And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back. Okay, Shalom Aleichem. A little smoky out here. Smoky rigs. So, welcome to Wartime ZOOMSHTEIG number 118. Kuf Yud Ches.
Is traceable to life. Norms or facts.
Hey, I'm Musmacht. So, learning in the schus of the captives and of the soldiers. We're doing this, and we were halfway through the Ben Yehoyada. So we'll finish the Ben Yehoyada. We'll go over the Maisa again. We'll see the Ben Yehoyada. And then I also found it in Rebbe Nachman where he talks about disease. Abishter will give us the shipmates. Okay. Abishter will give us the shipmates. Okay. Okay, so the Gemara uses yid connecting to egg. We got two yids connecting to egg. Okay. Shalom Aleichem, Zoom user. And Mike. Wow. Mike, is this open mic?
Hey, man.
Ah, what an honor, bro. We are joined by a real-life quantum mechanic, a genius in music and in life and in science. Great to be joined by Open Mic. Great to be joined by Ziggy Arizalman. Without further ado, let's get to the Maisa, the story that we're going to talk about today. Rabba Bar Bar Chana. So this Jewish seafarer who has all these great stories that even though they might seem weird and wild prima facie, when we actually understand and we see the different literature explaining what is really being said here, it's some of the most cryptic and esoteric stuff, and that's why it's hidden behind a tale like this. So let's see what he says. Rabba Bar Bar Chana says, one time I was going on a boat, and I saw a bird. So kartzuleih, we explained yesterday, was his ankles. Right before class, I was able to get a screenshot of a Sefer Aruch, and he says it's a knee. He actually spells it out, Kuf Nun Yud Aleph, Kaniya. Right? And it's Kanechel in Yiddish. So it's up to his knees or up to his ankles in water. Yeah, what's up? So his head was by the rakia. Shalom Aleichem, Ilan Eckhart. The big honor to have him also. So both of these either Ilan and Mike we added today. They're probably the two best musicians in yeshiva. First day in their additions. And we can say it. Okay, very, very good to see you. Shalom Aleichem, Ilan. So we're learning a Moradika Maisa. We're learning the Maisa. So Rabba Bar Chana was going on a boat. And so when it says going on a boat, the Ben Yehoyada actually says, what was he really doing? Is he was looking at Kabbalah. He was looking at Chachmas HaNester. Okay? On this boat. And now I don't know, usually talk like this. I remember for days in Oraita that I'm a Nigler Rebbe. You know? I don't usually talk about Kabbalah, but when it's shot in Gemara and you need to say shot in Gemara and explain it, I'll peek Chachmas Hasod, so Yid knows how to do that as well and talk about these concepts and analyze them, and let's see what we can do. So he sees a bird, right? I was going on a boat and I saw a bird. So until his ankles or knees was covered in water, Bireshe Birakia, but his head was in the firmament, right? Elon has a great picture behind him of the firmament. So Shkaya, one shot in why the kids always ask why is the sky blue. Well, one shot is that and really might like this. One shot is that we have breathable air, oxygen, gas in our immediate world. And then when it gets colder above and you go up, 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 so then the oxygen as a gas turns to water, turns to a liquid, I mean. And then above the liquid, it gets even colder. The oxygen is going to turn into a solid. And when oxygen freezes, it's blue. And that glass is the firmament. It's just frozen oxygen. It's a possible interpretation, but I'm not 100% sure. Why do I mention it now? Because it's talking about the firmament. The head of this bird was up by the frozen O3 particles, or O4, I don't know. O2? It was up by the rakia. Now, this rakia, it could be just a metaphor, meaning like what the people that talk about flat earth, they want to say that like there's an actual physical rakia, and that the Arctic wall of Antarctica is the beginning of that rakia, which Yechezkel actually says is like the awesome ice, Ke'ena Kerech HaNorah, when he's referring to the rakia. So that's one approach. But there's another approach, which is that no, the earth is a globe, and all of like the science stuff. And then the rakia would just be like some kind of spiritual idea, but doesn't actually have physical representation. That's what one of the guys in yeshiva, the Naz, tries to say. And we have some people in the yeshiva in class right now. I'm not going to call anyone out by name, but there's some people who are still clinging to the globe theory. And so they can say, look, the rakia here, according to the Ben Ish Chai, this whole story never really happened. It was just a story or a vision, according to Rebbe Nachman. Okay. The Amrinan Leika Maya. So they said, oh, there must not be. Now, it's only because we're doing Chazara today. We saw this the first time yesterday. So he says, because there's Leika Maya, maybe even Thursday. So the way that this is explained is that we said it. Then we're going to try to explain it now. We're going to see the Ben Yoyad in a second. The Amrina, and we said, oh, there's not so much water. There's not so much water in this area. If the bird is only up to his knees or only up to his ankles, there's not so much water. And it says, Ubainan the mechos. Now it says in our Gemara, it says Ubainan lachos. And I'm like, what? You talking about wetness? But that's not the pshat. The Rebbe Nachman also has the girza lemechos. So what is that? What does that mean? You're gonna ask. It's a good question. Beinan lemechos, we tried to maybe escape like Kure Navde do to get out of there. I don't know. That Kure is like maybe like talking about a web. The Navak Baz Kola. So they wanted to escape maybe because they saw our boat's not going to be able to pass because there's not so much water. A Baz Kol came down and says, the Amar line said, Lo tichuse. Don't be afraid. Maybe Ba'inan Lachos, like we started being afraid. Like us, like maybe like melting the mecha, the micho is melting. Maybe like their souls were melting. They're very afraid. Basco comes says, don't be afraid. Or maybe it means like don't rest here, like the mushroom of like Noah. Yo, DVJ, you want to text legs? We're missing one of our favorite guys.
Yeah, I'll text him.
Maybe he just doesn't know about Shir today. Okay. Mike's gone. It's okay. He saw enough. I don't know. Maybe it was that globe stuff. We'll talk. And he's back. Shalom Aleichem, Michael Ridley. Okay.
Hey, quick interjection. Where are we? I know we're in
great
Bava.
question. Sorry. We're on Ayin Gimel Amud Beis in Maseches Bava Basra.
Ayin Gimel Amud Beis.
Ayin
Okay.
Gimel Amud Beis, about in the middle of the daf. In Bava Basra, in the 5th chapter.
Okay, gotcha.
So he says, don't go. Maybe it's Lashon Linchot, maybe it's Lashon to be afraid. Don't be afraid or don't go here. Because it a failure of chatzina, which is an act. Levar Nagra, to a lumberjack. A lumberjack dropped here an axe. Hashavani, Loka Madya, Ara. And it's been falling for 7 years. This axe has been falling to the ground. And it hasn't hit the ground yet. The lav mishum d'nefishi maya, not because there's so much water, right? It's not because there's so much water that like it's just still sinking. That's what I think it means. Lav mishum d'nefishi maya. And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back. Was Machzervid. It wasn't that it was because there was so much water, but it was because there were divi maya, right? It was rapid, right? So the reason that the axe didn't fall is because the water is so rapid. The boss calls saying like, yo, you guys think that you guys want to like get out of here because you don't want to be trapped because the water is not so big. Boss calls like, bro, get out of here. But not because the water is not so deep and there's not so much water. The truth is there is crazy amount of water, and this bird that you thought the water wasn't so deep because it was up to his ankles, this bird was really just absolutely gigantic. And so, and the reason that the axe didn't fall when someone dropped the axe is because there's so much rapids. So be careful, don't go here with the rapids. They thought there was not so much water, but there was crazy water. Amar Rav Ashi, sadai. They say, what bird is this? This bird is called the Ziz Sadai, right? Now, Ziz Sadai. Ziz is from Lashon of to move, Zaz, Zuz, move. And Sadai is a field, right? And so the Rebbitzin, she wasn't able to come to Shir today, but she mentioned something that was so brilliant yesterday. And I think it totally works with this Ziz Sadai. So we said, first of all, a field mover, a bird is called a field mover, but we know about road runner, right? Aziz Sadai, a road runner, that's maybe one shot. But what about this? What if a field mover was a reference to the electromagnetic field? And it's about the ability to move in a field. And this is what Rivka pointed out. She said that it sounds like almost a battery. His legs were on one side of the earth all the way down like at the bottom of the sea, and his head was all the way up to the firmament. So those two things they are just something that I wanted to bring to the fore so that we can think about that. Maybe this is talking, when it's talking about a field, maybe it's talking about an electric field, a magnetic field. And speaking of electricity, we're talking all about water. And water and seafaring is also very close to electricity. When you think about the electric flow and current. So for those three reasons, I think that maybe this story, maybe there's some very deep secrets about electricity, electromagnetism, you know. Let's just say that this would be Maxwell's favorite Gemara. Yo, Ridley, who's the Maxwell I'm talking about? What's his name?
James.
James Clark Maxwell. He would have loved this stuff, bro. Okay. So now we saw the Gemara, and yesterday we saw the Ben Ish Chai, and it was pretty good and it was pretty long. But today I found the Rebbe Nachman who talks about it. And so I'm thinking, let's see the Rebbe Nachman, and maybe we'll go back to the Ben Ish Chai. Let's see the Rebbe Nachman. It's Sweet Yom Shlishi today. Wartime ZOOMSHTEIG number 118. We started learning every day since the pandemic, but since the Simchas Torah massacre, we haven't missed a day of shir, and today is 118, and each year hopefully is in the source of the captives and of the soldiers. Okay, and without further ado, I'm going to read the Rashbam on our story. I'll go through the story again with the Rashbam. Rabba Bar Bar Chana, he said, one time I was going on a boat and I saw a boy, right? And it was up to his ankles in water and his head was in the firmament. The Amrina Lake Amaya says, we were thinking that the waters are not deep. However, it's only up to his ankles. We thought this can't be such deep water. They said, they wanted to get out of there to save their souls. Nabag Baras Kala. A bas call, Ridley, is a heavenly voice. You know, in a time when there was prophecy, so a heavenly voice was not like it's between, it's like something, right? Since we don't have prophecy, but sometimes you can still hear a heavenly voice. I don't know so much about that from a scientific point of view, you know, but there's a lot of things we don't know, and especially when we take into consideration the ether, bro. Once we take into consideration ether, but anyway, so a heavenly voice came out, which is something, it's not exactly nevuah, Yidin, but it's something, maybe it's the feminine form of nevuah. And I only say that because literally the word means daughter of a voice. So the Omar, and it says to us, don't go down this way. Then about the Lechatzina, the Varnagra, there was a woodsman, and 7 years he dropped an axe, and it still hasn't hit the ground. Not because there's so much water, but because the rapids are so intense. Rav Ashi says, who was this bird? It was the sadai. It was the bird of sadai, because it says sadai imadi. Because in the Basra, it says sadai imadi, and the Rashbam says the head got all the way to the rakia. Okay, let's see Rebbe Nachman. David should give us Yad D'Shmaya. He says, Tifrasa, Tiparta, he actually says that's a Tiparta, this bird is Bechinas Dibor. It represents speech. Shehu Emtsai Bein Ha'adam. Because the way that humans can communicate is through speech. Shehu Nizave mi Mayin Tichurin Unukvin. He says speech comes from the masculine waters and the feminine waters. Now we know in Bereshis, in Genesis, that God separated the upper waters from the lower waters. And my whole life, I'm like, what upper waters? But then when you actually see real pictures of these planets, you see that they're just lights, and they're nothing like what NASA has deceived us with, these pictures. And furthermore, if you understand what I said about oxygen, that if it gets really cold, turns into a liquid. So that could be the upper waters, and then all of a sudden we have upper waters. Okay. So we have the upper waters and lower waters, male waters and female waters. Bein hashamayim. And between the heavens, shehu bechinas tivunas haTorah. Speech, it connects humans, but it also connects us to God with our prayer. And that is like an aspect, I guess, of understanding Torah in the heavens, because Torah, we speak it out. Kimuva, like, is brought in Erech and Tazai, and also somewhere in Zohar, probably. Al Mitzora Atzarich Levi Shnei Tiparim. So why does the Mitzora the leper has to bring as a sacrifice, he has to bring 2 birds. It says, Yavo patpatia, v'chaper al patpatia. The guy got leprosy because he spoke bad words. He spoke slanderous words against his fellow, for example. And so God hit him with some leprosy. And you want to cure from leprosy? Bring the birds that are always chirping, because you're obviously a chirper. That shot that it was up to his knees or up to his ankles in water. Because since speech is supposed to illuminate for a person all the places that he needs to repent or he needs to improve. Right, like that Ruth circled Boaz's legs and she slept there. A very, very strange story in the writings about Ruth. That she was like not married to Boaz, but she was sleeping by his legs and out in the field. Why is that relevant here? A person with his speech, he should be able to understand that there's a lot of things that we can improve. When a person understands, even when he's speaking in his own mind, when he's analyzing what's going on, he can understand like where he can improve. He understands that his level is not his potential. The Alkain Nikra Hadibur Siparta. That's why speech is compared to a bird. The guy at kartzuleih b'maya, but it's only up to his feet. Meaning, with the speech, you see that how much more we can grow. It's only up to the feet. A person can really, with his speech. He doesn't say. Rebbe Nachman doesn't say with his thoughts, but we think to ourselves with speech, I guess. So that's another way that a person can realize that, like, wow, I really have so much potential through our speech. And by the way, that's what our self-talk should be. A person talking to himself has the power to bring himself down and manifest real bugging out, chas v'shalom, real darkness. And with the person's self-talk, he can bring himself out of that darkness. And he can see, wow, really, I have so much potential. And even if now I'm not where I want to be, but I look at it's only up to the ankles over here with the water. I have so much more Torah that I can learn. Maya ihu bechinas adam. So what does it mean? What does the water represent here? I wanted to say Torah. Says Rebbe Nachman here. It's something. It's a different idea. Maybe it's bechinas adam. It's the human. Shenizave mimayin duchrin umayin nukmin kiyadua. So Mayan Duchrim, when he talks about male waters, I think he's talking about spiritual matters, things which cannot be observed through scientific experiment, or at least not yet. Emotions like love or, spiritual things, thoughts. And Mayan Nukbin, feminine, that's Malchus, that's our world, that's Nukba, Olam Hab, Asiya, okay. Kiyadua, like it's known. The Adibor Shehu Bechinas Tifersan, the speech, Kaya kartzuleih. Eitel Adam Shehu Madrega Bechusa, right? What an amazing world! So many different galaxies, so many different levels of understanding of Eibishter, from Keser all the way down to Malchus. And speech is given to us on this lowest level in Nukba. The reason that we have the capacity to speak is to illuminate our world and to understand. I don't know what that reference from Rus is. They said we don't see so much water. They understood. We saw there's no water, so what? Respect, perfect respect. What? Shehiya la'adam be'enav efes ba'ayin. That a person should be humble. To really get to this speech, the person should be in his own eyes like nothing. V'zeu leis maya, that there's no water. That a person should say, I have no water. So what does this mean, humble? A lot of times a false humility can be what is taught by the elders sometimes. And they talk about a humility that I should be thinking that I'm nothing, right? Kind of, it sounds like what he says here, but that's not what he means. That a person shouldn't be thinking like, oh, I'm nothing. It should be more, a person should realize how much more there is to grow. A person shouldn't think, oh, like, look how good I am, look how much Torah I've learned, look how much water has accumulated in my life. But you should always look at it as just the beginning. We're just getting started out here. That's real humility that it's talking about. And with a person's speech also, and also with his speech to others, and also with his self-talk, which is very important. Ubainan linchose, lashon shivus. We wanted to go down. I know Leo's ana shavel ve'anav. We wanted to go down. Maybe they even wanted to go down into that area. They said the water's not so deep. Let's go chill there, right? We wanted to get out of the boat, right? Ach, shahaya lakure navdin lashon okir. So remember, we didn't really say what akure was yet. And I'm glad we were blind. We were saying we didn't know. Because now Rebbe Nachman is coming to explain. Le'akure is lashon okir enosh mipaz. Why did they make themselves low? Why did they make themselves, they wanted to go down. Why did they want to make themselves humble? Just to make themselves precious, that people will think, oh, look how great they are. Really, they were doing it just to make themselves look religious, look from, look stark, look respected. Godless, they're saying like, nah, I'm not that great. I only hit a baseball 600 feet. I don't know, random example. I only kicked the soccer ball perfectly. I don't know, right? He's trying to be humble, but really just so people will, right, say, oh, I'm freaking amazing. I just got a guitar 2 weeks ago, less than 2 months ago, and I already figured out how to play major, minor, and seventh chords. So a person could be like, oh, wow, like, oh, I'm not so good at guitar. But really, he just wants people to tell him how good he is. No, I'm not so good. I only know those chords. Just an example of what a person could try to be humble, but really wants people to tell him how great he is. So that people will give him honor and stuff. Because everyone knows how great it is to detest grandeur. Again, they're like, oh, yo, I'm nothing. But really, they want everyone telling them how great they are. I know, wow, this guy, you see how humble he was? You see how humble this guy was? He learned really major, minor, seventh, major, minor, seventh, suspended 2 and suspended 4. And he only gave the example, you see how humble this guy, just kidding. But you see how humble this guy is, and he wants people to tell him how great he is and how humble he is. There is a humility that really comes from haughtiness. We wanted to go down, we wanted to be humble, but really to aggrandize ourselves. Will be worthy and will be important. But they don't want to come off as arrogant. To get out of this, I just act arrogant so that there should be no chashash that I'm acting humble, just so people will. All right. Novak Baraz Kola ve'amar. The Basco comes down and says, Lo techuzu lehacha. Do not come down here. Lo techuzu liyoshevelim b'shvil zeh. Don't make yourself humble just so that people think, oh, wow, you're so stark. bishvil le'okure nafshin, to impress, right? And so people will think you're so great. That's not the reason that a person should be humble. It's just so that people will praise his humble ways. It's not real humility. It's haughtiness. 7 years this act was falling. It didn't get down to the ground. The Bazkol is telling them the source of greatness. Shoresh HaGadlus, Kadeshi is right. The source of like aggrandizement. That was their source, right? Kadeshi is Rachaku ad Katzeh Acharon. Get out of there. Go the other way. Don't even come down here. Don't even come swim in these waters. Even if you think you want to go right back on the boat, don't even rinse off in the waters of false humility. That's really that people will try to get arrogant. People want them to be blessed or to be uplifted and treasured. Like Chazal say in Avos, me'od heavy shval ruach. Me'od, very, very humble. Humility is a very tough thing. And not for me, it's easy for me. No, I'm kidding. Humility is a tough thing, but the Mishnah in Avos says me'od heavy shval ruach. Be very, very humble. Hainu shehodia lahem. He's telling us she'agaduzu minifilas ha'isparus v'hagaiva shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu shehu levusho. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is grand. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is beautiful, and if a person is arrogant, it's almost like he's trying to like horn in on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm saying if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is beautiful and grand and proud, so then we who are Chelek Eloha, who are parts of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so so is that not for us? Are we supposed to be like downtrodden? Or humility is something which can be felt, or a human can feel that about themselves, but not to represent themselves as like such like a lowly person. Now, that's not necessarily what it's saying here. Because it says, Adonai Malach who could be arrogant, who could be proud, Abishter, right? But we're Chelek Eloah. So this is why, listen, I don't always teach Rebbe Nachman. It's just that we're learning such esoteric stuff, and there's not so many perushim on it. And so we'll see what Rebbe Nachman says about it. But just for the newcomers this year, this is like, we're doing Avodah Zarah earlier. Now we're doing Rebbe Nachman. We're doing Basra, and Amos will give us Hadishmaya. Naval Chatzina, he says it's the clothes. The clothing fell. No me'amer. So they say it's not an axe. That axe is just a reference to the clothing of the Bar Nagra. That's the Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Ben Yehoyada that we saw yesterday, the Ben Yehoyada, he said that this Bar Nagra is a big Talmud Chacham. We're going to go see the Ben Yehoyada again. Today I wanted to start something new because we had two new Heliga B'nai Chabura in the Oilam. And so I wanted to start something fresh. Rebbe Nachman says that the Bar Nagra, the lumberjack was Abishter. Kimosha Gazov Hamikare Bamayim Aliyosov. So it's like this. If a person says to himself, "Oh, I'm so great now," and he thinks that he's separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then that's like dropping an axe. Then his arrogance is taking away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's greatness. But if a person understands that my greatness or his greatness or her greatness is just a Mishter, he's just a kli, he's just a receptor down here for the power source of Ribono Sha'olam up in Reshad Los Yada, in Keter, in Gilgulta, in Atik Yomin. If he understands that, I'm just a Chilek Eloah, so then he's not, his greatness is not necessarily taking away from Abishter's, only if he thinks that he is the source of greatness. Because there's a Mekarim and it says Elohechem Nagaru. Yo, someone in Chulin calls the Abishter the N-word. Did you believe this, Elon Eckert? Elohechem Nagaru. But obviously I'm just kidding, because Nagar means is like a woodsman. So they say about a Kadosh Baruch Hu that he's an engineer. He's a woodsman. He's a lumberjack. What, Abishter? He's a woodworker.
A carpenter.
Oh, carpenter, Gavaldik. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Carpenter, Shkoyach Gadol. And by the way, if Scotty Sivko was here, we have a Roman Catholic who comes to share sometimes. And if he was here, he would be very happy about the carpenter. You know? All right. Abishter will give us Yad Dishmaya. 10 minutes left. Okay, perfect. And if you're the bush, Azet is out there a godless. So the Lavush, the Gaiva, the pride and honor and grandeur and beauty of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, I want to say eclipsed, Chas v'shalom, but at least in the eyes of people who don't understand, eclipsed, this guy's making himself that he's the source of greatness. Shehu b'chinas sheva batei akum. This is an aspect of the 7 houses of idolatry. I don't know what that means. Shali Dezeh Go Yisrael Me'artzam. These 7 houses of idolatry is why Am Yisrael was Geulas. Oh, Shalom Aleichem Yoel. This is why Am Yisrael, it's the arrogance. That's what we're learning about. It's the arrogance that is the Bechina. It's thinking that the arrogance is the Bechina of the 7 houses of idolatry that caused Am Yisrael to get Geulas. Kema Amar Chazal, like Chazal saying, Gidin Peiches, Lo Gol Yisrael Ad She'avdu Ba Sheva Batei Akum. Only when there were 7 idolatry, 7 levels of idolatry, which caused Am Yisrael to get Geulas. Ubishvil Zeh Nikra Akum is B'lashon Tiferes. That's why we call them Akum. Abodas Kochavim Umazalim is a beautiful name. I don't know what it means, B'lashon Tiferes. Kemoshe God, like Kediferes Adam Lasheves Bias. They called it a house based on Avodah Zarah. Ki Avodah Zarah, because idolatry, Shehu Hagadlos, that Shehu Minifilas is Pa'aruso. So when a person is arrogant, it's the same idea as binitarianism, as Satanism, as idolatry, which is like a person thinks that there's a source of greatness that doesn't come from Echad. Really, someone who's arrogant is like basically denying the grand unified theory that everything is Avishter, that everything is the omnipresent. So that's the same thing. Idolatry and arrogance, they share that in common, that it's kaviyachol, taking away from the Avishter, from the omnipresent. The Avodah Zarah, and that's why it says it was falling for 7 years. Now we're like, it's falling for 7 years, talking about 7 years. Rebbe Nachman's like, no, that 7 is a reference. You see 7 years, it's a reference to the 7 houses of idolatry. Zeh b'chinas agadlos. Shu b'chinas sheva batei Avodah Zarah, the arrogance, the 7 houses of idolatry, didn't come yet to the ground. Ainu sha'ayidei ha'avon hazeh. Adayin lo chazarnu la'artzenu. Oh, didn't get to the land. We still didn't get back there to Israel because of arrogance. Ki al yidei ha'avon hazeh, shu agadlos, shu ke'oved Avodah Zarah, it's like idolatry. Bechina Sheva Ba'at Avodah Zarah. That's why we lost Eretz Yisrael. Falling back to the land yet. We haven't fallen. We haven't came back yet. Hakol al yidei avon hazeh shel gadlus. Everything is from this avon. Shehu bechinas avodah zarah. That is the bechina of avodah zarah. Is arrogance. V'zeu lo mishum nefishei maya. There wasn't that there was so much water. I know lo tov. Our person shouldn't say, but she feels that lo mati la'ara. Why didn't we get back there? It's because we can't. We can't get back to Israel. It's so hard. Because there's so many goyim trying to keep us out of Israel. And there's so many idolaters, rather. Not goyim, idolaters. Bechinas rabbim hagoyim. Oh, now, because there's some rabbim hagoyim, there's so many goyim over here. Shame bechinas mayim rabbim. There's so many goyim. We can't get back to Israel because there's goyim everywhere. That's why we can't get back. That's not the reason. Because we're running after, it's rapid. The water was rapid, and they're running after the honor. That's water. That's El Hakavod here, Im El Mayim Rabim. Right? It talks about water and kavod there. I know they were deep as a kavod. He uses the word Radav Mayim, the rapid waters, meaning that we're running after the honor, that godless and grandeur. And by the way, in this age of social media, everyone's running after honor and grandeur. How many likes can I get? How many shares can I get? Blah, blah, blah. How many views? Not everyone, but we're doing our best. The main length of the exile is because we can't go back to our land. Just because we want to be so cool and so honored. And uplifted and treasured. Kol zeh odiu lehem baskol. The baskol, this micro prophecy came out. Godel bizoy agadus. No, so great, get out of there. You don't want to get arrogant at all. Go to the exact opposite. The az kavod Hashem yisbarach b'shleimus, and then the honor of the Ribono Shalom, the name, blessed be He, is complete. The az zochen the dibur hameir, and then our speech can really elucidate. That's shehu b'chinas safra, and that's the bird, as said above. Abba, eich zochen is that? How do we get this? The shaber hagadlus, to break the ego. The hakavod shel atzmo, right? The government. How do we break the ego? V'sheyiyeh kavod Hashem yisbarach b'shleimus, and so the kavod of the Eibishter is complete. Hu al yidei shmiras habris. Now, so there's Shmiras Abriz, classic Rebbe Nachman. I'm surprised we haven't seen Rebbe Nachman talk about this. Shehem Bechinas Yichuda Ilav Yichuda Tata. So Shmiras Abriz is protecting the covenant, aka not wasting seed, and the circumcision is guarding the circumcision. And this is a bechina of a yichud above and a yichud below. Now we spoke about the water above and the water below, and these two bechinas of zachar and nekeva, and that's how you could really bring kavod Hashem. Where does Rebbe Nachman see anything that has to do with masturbation here? There's one more paragraph.
2 minutes.
What?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. This is Rav Ashi. This is the Sadai. It's the bechina of the yichud, the highest part of the soul. Ilav yichud tadav. And so Rebbe Nachman was saying that there's a high part of the soul and a lower part of the soul of the highest part. Sha'ali de yichuda, or maybe yichud is like coming together. The yichud tadav, when you bring these things together, shehem bechina shmiras abrish b'shnei bechinos kanal. Oh, he might have mentioned these shmiras abrish in two other ways. To speech, the bird, that is, speech is the way that we can really connect with spirituality, because speech is something spiritual, ephemeral almost. But this ziz is talking about matat, which is Metatron. Miknaf haaretz, from the wing of the land. Ki isa v'medrash rabba och of echad yesh. There's a bird. V'shosh mafresh kanfav, when he spreads his wings. Hu machshich hashemesh, he makes the sun darken. V'ziz shemo, and it's called the ziz. V'zeh b'chinas yichuda tata matat, right? Which tiferes, right? B'chinas we can have aretz shebo mislabesh bris alma shu b'chinas shemesh sadai, the field is yichuda le'ela. Okay. I don't know if this yet is tuned, but all I have is this Matthew ukulele. Sorry, it's not tuned. I don't mean to give two amazing musicians in share today a bad first freestyle and play, but that's what the Amish started to create it on next May. We learned today